If you're looking for filters, you came to the wrong place. This is Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean.
Began with a small, disorganized protest on Wall Street in Lower Manhattan here in New York, has grown to demonstrations nationwide.
Filter Free Radio, live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Ustream home of Nicole Sandler, Radio or Not, and filterfreeradio.com.
Occupy Wall Street protesters identified themselves as the 99% that will no longer tolerate the greed and corruption of the 1%.
If you kill Wall Street, there'll be nobody else to create jobs. Wall Street is Main Street. That's all we do in Wall Street. We finance companies. And companies are people.
There seems to be no turning back as demonstrators express their outrage at what they call the injustices of the U.S. economic system.
Occupy Wall Street! All day!
But what exactly is their message?
I hope that the system changes towards inclusion, and that's it. And that's what I love about this so far, is that people are peaceful, they're respectful, and that it seems to come from a place of love. And that's where you want to be.
Do not fuck this up! We welcome them with love and respect. We welcome them with love and respect.
Revolutions are not made on protests. Protests are simply demonstrating. Revolutions are made by seizing power, seizing control, and seizing power. And the way you do that is by making real demands and agitating for them.
And welcome to Filter Free Radio. We are broadcasting live from Washington, D.C. It is November 21st. My name is Jacob Dean. Thank you so much for joining us for Occupy the Airwaves. Thank you, Shana, for that. I love that. I want to continue using Occupy the Airwaves. I think that is brilliant. Lots coming up in the show this evening. Oh my goodness, I have a huge announcement. I have a very big announcement that just came down the wires within the last 5 minutes. And I'm so freaking excited. I don't even know what to say. No one else knows about this but me. And so everyone's going to be like, oh my goodness, that's so cool, Jacob. That's awesome. And so we're going to get to that in a little bit. Also, an Occupy Portland update from news reporter Felicia Heaton of AM 1190 KEX in Portland, basically Portland's news institution flagship station. And Felicia, we're going to be getting to that at the bottom of the hour here in about 20 minutes. Also, lots of stuff. I was down at Occupy DC this weekend, got an update for you, got lots of interviews to play. One of our interns here at the office, Lisa, actually camped out. She's a student of UC Davis, which is a big deal if you've been following the news out of there, Berkeley and UC Davis. She's a student there, and she's an intern here in DC. And she spent the night at Occupy DC. We spoke with her. Also, we're going to be getting into talking about a revolution, nonviolent revolution. Could that be a solution? Is that the solution? We're going to get into Crane Britain's anatomy of a revolution a little bit. Also, this is what a police state looks like. I've got a lot of pepper spray photos to share with you. And also a few other things. Matt Taibbi's latest article in Rolling Stone on the occupiers. Occupy igloos. What's up with that? Yes, Occupy igloos. And, God, there's so much to get to tonight. I'm so excited. Also, interviewed Willie, founder and creator of TinCanTelephones.com. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's up with TinCanTelephones.com and what they were doing at Occupy DC. But before I get any further, let's welcome to the show all hosts of Radio or Not's primetime lineup, starting with Tuesday and Friday nights, Mr. Kenny Pick of Turn Up the Night with Mr. Kenny Pick. Also joining us, the Left Neck Chick Wednesdays with Left and Dixie. Hello, Danielle. And Shano from
Hello.
Funked in the Head, Thursdays. It is Welcome to Occupy Thanksgiving.
It is like Thanksgiving, except I like everybody here.
That's hilarious because and the whole thing is why Occupy Thanksgiving? What's up with Occupy Thanksgiving? It is Thanksgiving week, and I had this idea. It actually came to me over the weekend, and so bear with me. And you know, I want everyone to chime in on this as well. So we have this Occupy movement, right? It's been the gigantic 900-pound gorilla in the room, and the as you heard in the opening, the protesters are calling themselves the 99%. Well, my question is, and kind of has been, why isn't 99% of the population of the United States of America in the streets protesting? And there's different reasons for everyone, of course. Your grandma doesn't want to go hang out at Hippy Dippy Camp, and I understand that. And so I want to occupy Thanksgiving by starting the conversation this week while you're with family and friends and relatives and enjoying a nice Thanksgiving time with family and friends. Let's start the conversation, because if 99% of the population is with us, but 98% of those people can't participate actively in the protests in the movement, how can we get them to support the movement? There's got to be ways. And so I want to kind of throw this topic open to everybody and kind of chime in as you'd like. And so I think it's really important that we actually occupy Thanksgiving, or at least occupy the Thanksgiving conversation this year. And what better time to do it than now? Look at what's going on around you. Thoughts? Any interest in this? Do you guys like the idea? Or is it, don't dare talk about politics and religion with family and friends?
My gut says maybe.
I think it's a great idea, Jacob. And as many people say that they can't talk about religion or politics with their family, especially on holidays, you end up doing it anyway. So why not stand up for the 99%, stand up for them, even though they don't realize it, and maybe just change a few hearts and minds. Just maybe, just a few. But, that's where we have to start.
The conversation begins here, absolutely. And my whole thought process behind this is, there's got to be people out there who are supporting the movement, who are watching it on TV, every night and saying, yeah, but there's no way in hell I'm going down to Hippy Dippy Camp. And I say that, I'm just joking. But there's got to be a way for people to participate or to be supportive or, sympathize with the movement without necessarily showing up. And I think that's actually a really important question to think about and a conversation to begin to propagate, because as this kind of momentum, this enthusiasm for the movement begins to slowly, decrease. I'm actually getting worried that people are going to start tuning out. And coming up again, like I mentioned earlier, at the bottom of the hour, news reporter Felicia Heaton of AM 1190 KEX talked about this exact thing. And Mayor Sam Adams of Portland said this exact thing. He thinks that, as time goes on, and unless, something happens, or unless the movement is able to, kind of recollect and shift its momentum and focus and kind of rejuvenate itself, or start a new conversation, or take the next step, what is the next step of the movement, people are going to begin to start to tune out. People are going to get tired of hearing the same old crap about, okay, so yeah, we get it. The poor are mad, they're in the streets and they're protesting. Okay, now what? And as much as, it pains me to say this, I focus my energy in the truth, and that is the truth. And believe me, people are beginning to tune out already. And so I want to really focus on how we can maintain that momentum, maintain that support with the 99%. And I think starting the conversation at Thanksgiving or, Black Friday, hey, while you're in the lines at 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, getting ready to buy the next iPad or whatever the hell you're going to buy, why don't you, elbow your neighbor in line and say, hey, how about those Occupy protesters, huh? Just kind of get a collective, start the conversation. That's all I want to do is start the conversation.
Yeah, I'm in a kind of a unique situation. And hi, Skeptical Scott, you didn't get an intro there.
Thanks, Kenny.
Oh, shit, I did.
I was wondering if anybody knows that.
Just whitewashed right over.
There you go.
There you go, buddy. I'm sorry. I got my...
That's
Jacob's
okay.
excited.
You got a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
It's like a Thanksgiving dinner because you're going to get sick by the time you're done. So. But I have a unique situation as to where we have a family split, and there's like 3 segments of my family. It's cool. We can talk about politics all the live long day. It's just like preaching to the choir, and we all we're all down with the Occupy rallies and everything. But there's that one faction of the family that it's like, I just can't, because it will evolve into me getting asked to leave. You know, I will be evicted. I will be evicted from Occupy Thanksgiving if that were to happen.
That's no good.
No,
you get arrested.
I think there's a lot of people out there in the similar situation, and it's like, you know, when you try and bring up, you know, I tried bringing this up again with that faction of my family, one of our last get-togethers, and I said I went to the Occupy Wall Street thing, or I'm sorry, not Wall Street, but Cleveland, and you know, it's just like, oh, it's just a bunch of have-nots that, you know, want to take from the haves. They want to punish the, you know, people who are successful, and you know, and it's just the same old crap tagline, you know.
Yes. And actually, like I mentioned, I went down to Occupy DC this weekend, and I got an interview with actually a couple of conservatives. You know, I don't know if they were saying that they were 1%ers. I don't know if they were actually 1%ers or if they were just simply plants. James O'Keefe-esque, you know.
I think that most of those people think they are 1%ers. They think that they are in the income bracket,
or they want to be.
No, I heard an interview on NPR regarding the Occupy protests, and a guy called in and said he was a doctor and he was fortunate enough to be in the 1% because he made $250,000 a year. And I laughed my ass off because I'm like, buddy, if you think the 1% is the $250,000 a year, then they have you fooled.
They're getting the 1% mixed up with the tax policy of Obama.
Yeah.
You know.
And I actually got an interview with one of them, and you can totally rip apart their three talking points. That it's so funny. You know, I might even just play that and go to that now, just for shits and giggles, so I can get your guys' take on this. But yeah, and I do want to come back to the Thanksgiving conversation, and a little bit later on in the program, everybody think about what you're thankful for, because I do want to go around the table and ask everybody what they're thankful for. It is kind of like a Thanksgiving show, and I want to kind of keep that theme a little bit. And I'm thankful for a lot of things, so I can't wait to share with you what I'm thankful for. Also, I have a really big announcement. Really big.
You're such a tease. Jacob, killing me.
Okay. I am going to have Buddy Romner on my show.
Woo!
Nice.
Not today. Not tonight. But very soon, possibly next week. He's going to be in D.C. tomorrow and Wednesday at Occupy D.C. If you're in the D.C. area, get thee to the Occupy movement at the camps. Buddy Romner is going to be down there, and I'm very excited to actually speak with Governor Romner on his positions and his presidential campaign. And yes, and I just got confirmation with one of his people behind the scenes that we are going to make this happen. We're just fine-tuning the scheduling, and I'm very excited. So,
are you going to get him in the studio?
Sir, well handled.
Thank you, guys.
Is he going in the studio?
Possibly. We'll see. I'm gonna, you know, I mean, in a perfect world, sure, absolutely, but we'll see. So I'm very excited, and yeah, so fuck yeah. Anyways.
So getting back to the Occupy Thanksgiving thing.
Oh, thanks, Scott.
No worries. I just think part of the thing is asking the right questions more than even giving the right statements. In other words, when people say, oh, you know, these kids are just a bunch of hippies, et cetera, you know, you start just ask the question why and start digging them. And you can paint people in a corner with questions to the point where they actually see the folly in the things that they're saying, and that's sort of the way to reach people, I think.
You sound a lot more tolerant than me, Scott.
No, actually, we have a new nickname for Scott. It's not Skeptical Scott. It's Socratic Scott.
Hey, there you go. I like that.
I think you're all fucked in the head.
Oh, and I found this for you, Jacob, talking about Occupy Thanksgiving. Here we go.
There are three things I have learned never to discuss with people: religion, politics, and the great pumpkin.
There it is.
The great pumpkin.
I love that.
I love Charlie Brown.
I love Charlie Brown every year, yeah.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
But seriously, though, if you're able to withstand you know, the ridiculous statements that people make and refrain from actually trying to tell them what is reality and what is truth, and more coax it out of them through their own language by asking the right questions and facilitating the answers that you're looking for. You know, most people who ask questions already know the answers, you know, so if you can sort of ask the questions to facilitate the answers that you want, people will actually come to their own conclusions, and that's the only way to really reach people.
And that's,
you have met these people, Scott.
No, I have ex-girlfriend in Cleveland. You're probably right.
That's and well, speaking of that, I want to let me get to this interview real quick with this this fellow who he didn't call himself a conservative, but he was definitely with this other fellow who is saying that I'm a 1%er. I work for Bank of America. I work I make over $1 million a year. Whether or not he was lying, I can't tell you. I mean. Just from seeing him, and this again was at Occupy DC this weekend, he had really expensive, fine-looking Ray-Ban glasses on, Doc Marten shoes, really tight. I mean, his teeth were as white as paper, and so just everything about him, his physical appearance, to me, suggested that it's quite possible that he was actually telling the truth. And his sidekick, who I actually got to speak with because, long story short, the Occupy DC people kind of got into a fighting match with the guy, and he said, screw it, and he left because he couldn't, reach out to them and tell them that, corporations are people, and that, applauding Occupy DC for standing their ground and hanging in there with them. His sidekick, however, totally reeked of redneck, and I mean that in the best. I know, Danielle. I mean that in the best way possible. He just, ripped jeans, and he had a, backwards hat on. No offense, Shane. I love you, and it's just
going on right now.
And it's just, it was something was really weird about this, and I know I'm struggling for words right now because I still haven't come to my conclusions completely on this guy, but I talked with him, and whenever I speak with these people, and I want to play this as an example of, let's say you're trying to have this Occupy Thanksgiving conversation with your conservative relatives or friends, and you hit this dead wall. You got to be respectful. You have to be courteous, and I just ask questions. I don't, and I don't, kind of really push back. But I am kind of clever, and like as Scott suggested, ask the right questions to get the right answers. And I just was trying to feed him enough line to hang himself, and he totally hung himself.
Nice.
So I'm going to play this interview for you really quick. It's only a minute long, and let's see if you can pick out the talking points as well as I could. Here, listen to this. Okay, bud, I'm rolling. Just your name if you want, or share anything. And
Lee.
And your thoughts on the movement and just things in general? Your observations and things?
My observation is I agree with no government and corporation involvement with each other, a.k.a. Halliburton with government or Solyndra with government. It's not a liberal or conservative thing. And I hope it's not a socialist communist movement down here like it's been portrayed as. And I think, honestly, I think a lot of it is a socialist movement down here. And so that's my view on the movement.
Is there anything that you agree with the movement or would like to see changed or anything like that?
What I'd like to see changed is they should be outside the White House. They should be right outside the White House and right outside the Capitol building. It should not be outside Wall Street or anything like that, because Wall Street is going to make money. If there's money to be made, they're going to make money. If government has that much power, they're going to go right after what has that power. I mean,
who's got the power is what you're saying.
Yeah, who has the power, they're going to go right after it. And so you take the money, or you take the power out of government, then Wall Street won't go there.
Thanks for your time, bud.
And that's about it. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that guy made no sense. He completely contradicted himself like 3 times.
Yeah, Jacob, I have to agree with you. He definitely reeked of redneck, and it was not the funny, quirky kind of redneck that I call myself. It was the hillbilly. Yeah. And I mean, just even more importantly, I've listened to this interview 12 times, and I've totally picked it apart. And to me, it's so clear that he had basically 3 main talking points. First of all, Solyndra. He had to mention Solyndra.
Of course he did.
Second of all, I asked him what's his thought on the camps and the movement. Socialist, communist. He said those words back to back.
As if they're one and the same.
Okay. Yeah, socialist, yes, but not in the terms that you think it means. In the real terms.
Small s, socialist.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Shane. And finally, his point about, I said, what would you like to see changed? He says, let's go protest at the White House. Don't protest Wall Street. And and it took me a second. I'm like, oh, that's because we have a Democratic African American president in the White House.
And also, Herman Cain has said that over and over again, and many of the Republicans in the Congress. You're protesting in the wrong place. It's the White House's policies. So he's been listening to them.
Right. And then the best part about that was the Freudian slip at the end when he couldn't get his talking points straight, and I just, feed them a little bit more line and they'll hang themselves every time. And so, I wanted to share that with you as a kind of an example of what you might encounter if you occupy Thanksgiving. Yay! So,
well, what I loved is he said, "I hope it's not going to be socialist and communist, but I think it is."
Right.
Yeah, well, we could only wish.
Yes.
It's not that far to the left, unfortunately.
And, everybody loves social media. Everybody loves social interaction. Everybody loves social, I don't know, it goes on and on. But socialism, oh, shit, that's, I don't know about that.
It's just the ism they're afraid of. You can add ism to, like, any word, and they apparently don't like it.
Scientism. Ooh.
I mean, for me, I like, colloquial stuff, but when you say colloquialism, I'm out.
It's redundant even.
Oh, that's too funny. And another thing that I want to mention that just grinds my gears, I found on Facebook last night. There's a conservative talk show host. He's a national syndicated host, and I don't want to name him because I don't want to, give him a free plug or anything. But he's based out of Portland, Oregon, and actually our executive producer, Sean Taylor, used to work for him. And he posted something last night on his Facebook, and it said, quote, "Just heard on the radio that Egyptian police set occupier tents on fire." Just saying, right? 47 people like this, okay?
That whole just saying passive-aggressive thing pisses me off.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's up to 49 people who like this now. My bad. And so I just want to read you a couple of the comments that followed. One guy says, so are you guys saying that we should really burn down people's tents? Is this a good thing? Guy following that says, I think I couldn't get close enough. The smell from Occupy would kill me. Okay.
That's a mature response.
Well, it's the whole kill. You got to kill the messenger. You can't address the issues. You have to just only address the person who's pointing them out to you.
Exactly.
Another fellow says, yes, I am saying burn down the occupiers' tents. That would be a good thing. Even better if they happen to be sleeping inside of them when they burned them.
Wow. And the Secret Service and everything, whoever would be responsible for that would be where on that direct threat?
A couple, and I posted this on my Facebook. If we're friends on Facebook, go look at it. It's up there. A couple below that says, haha, awesome. U.S. occupiers have been given way too much leniency. Okay. Next guy says, smoke them. Okay. And then it continues on. And then I, at that point, was like so furiously angry that I had to write a scathing little comment that said, really? Wow. Guess I shouldn't be surprised as the GOP also supports letting uninsured people die, torture, corporations freely polluting our environment, and booing gay soldiers support the troops, right? So much for humanity. Reminds me of the barbaric Roman Empire fight to the death to entertain us days. Kind of sad, don't you think? We can't be civilized? Come on. Respectfully disagree about opinions? Really? Or just kill anybody who disagrees with you? So I wanted to share that.
Very nice. There's something for that.
Amen, Jacob.
Yeah, got Jacob fired up, huh?
I was angry. And I really hate that guy. I know a lot about him, being from Portland and all that jazz. So
yeah, well, he's part of the collective denial. I mean, there's so much out there.
Yeah, I know. And, and Jacob, I'm glad you brought this up because I won't spend much time on it. But if anybody ever gets a chance to, if you feel like throwing up a little bit in your mouth, go over to the Blaze and read any post associated with Occupy Wall Street and scroll down to the comments. I mean, because, I saw people say, yeah, target practice, stuff like that. I mean, seriously, people rooting for all the Occupy protesters to be slaughtered wholesale.
They totally are. And it's ridiculous that, just like you did, like you mentioned, Danielle, no one's calling them out on it. But we are at the Radio or Not Occupy Thanksgiving dinner table. So,
Yes.
damn it.
That's gravy, damn it.
Yeah, I need some more potatoes.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. I want to go to break early because I'm actually not going to take a break here. I'm going to play my extensive interview with Felicia Heaton of AM 1190 KEX, Portland's news station, on Occupy Portland. For an update from Occupy Portland from the source, don't go anywhere. Radio or Not's Occupy Thanksgiving dinner show will be right back with the Left Neck Chick, Shano, Kenny Pick, Skeptical Scott, and myself, Jacob Dean. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. On the line with me, all the way coming to us live from Portland, Oregon, news reporter Felicia Heaton of AM 1190 KEX. Felicia, thanks so much for joining us.
In Portland since October 6th, the day they got started with a huge rally down at Waterfront Park and a march throughout the city. I've been in the camps, which are now, of course, broken down and being restored back to city parks. I have been covering the protests, rallies, marches that have been winding throughout the city. We had a huge march in solidarity with Occupy Wall Street, where many of the protesters here went from bank to bank to essentially occupy the banks and spread the message of the movement.
Can you give us a kind of a sense of how Portland feels about the Occupy Portland movement there?
You know, I think just like the rest of the country, it's a mixed bag. We have many people who are involved in the movement, people that you see the same faces out there protesting every day, walking the streets and holding the signs. And then we have a lot of people who aren't as visible, but they're definitely supporting the movement. You can see their posts on Twitter and Facebook, the communication that's happening on the Occupy Portland web stream. There are, thousands of people who are involved in this movement. We also have a number of people in Portland who don't really understand what's going on, and they don't quite get the theme. They're looking for more specific information about why people are out in the streets and what kinds of changes they would like to see. So just like the rest of the country, it's across the board, all over the place.
Absolutely understandable. And I've been following Mayor Adams' news conferences about closing down the camps, clearing that out. Is there any talks of some sort of compromise, or is anybody trying to work on a compromise to maybe somehow let the Occupy movement continue but follow new rules, or kind of like what's going on in New York now?
Well, in Portland, we have had a number of people who are involved in the movement who say they're going to do whatever they can to in the morning. We haven't heard if the mayor has been willing to change his mind or be lenient on that. He says that he is still open to communicating with people from the movement, although they have said that they are done communicating with the city, because when the camps were actually closed down, there were a number of protests that went on after the fact, and a couple people were involved in confrontations with the police. One man says he was injured by police, beaten by police unnecessarily. Police argue that they were trying to control the crowd, and this man was being particularly forward with his efforts in protesting. So since then, there's been a little bit of a breakdown in communication communication between the city and people who are considered the leaders or organizers, although they don't like to be called that. They don't like to be called leaders and organizers of the movement. But the people who are the most visible, the people who have been trying to reach out to the city, there's been a bit of a breakdown in communication. And so we're kind of trying to see at this point what's going to happen next. There is talk that people are planning to occupy some parks, maybe not necessarily in downtown Portland as they've been in the past, but maybe heading out to southeast Portland to some neighborhood parks. And we're definitely hearing more about trying to spread the movement outside of the downtown Portland core.
Very interesting. That's actually where I'm from, born and raised in southeast Portland. And in case any of our listeners don't know or not familiar with Portland or Mayor Sam Adams is actually quite progressive, and I follow him on Twitter, and he has expressed support of the movement. But from things that I've been hearing and friends and just kind of talking to some people who are there in Portland, it sounds like the movement has kind of gotten out of hand in some cases, and the mayor was simply just trying to put a cap on any potentially bad things that could come of that. So I think it's really interesting that he might be actually trying to help it in that sense. And that's really interesting that the movement's branching out like that. I like that idea. Felicia, you and I are friends on Facebook, and
yes.
And I also want to mention a post that you posted about an occupier who had approached you. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, this gentleman came up to me. I don't think he knew that I was a reporter. I kind of go stealthy when I cover this stuff.
Yes.
As a reporter for KEX, I work for a large corporation. And, a lot of the people who are involved in this movement are not particularly large fans of news entities that are owned by corporations. So I go kind of stealthy, and
Yes.
I don't think he knew that I was a reporter. And
Understandable.
Although I never hide that. If people want to know what I do, I tell them straight up front. I tell them what I do, and I'll answer their questions honestly. But he just started talking to me and said, this stuff, can you imagine how awesome this movement would be if we could take advantage of the momentum and channel it into some very specific actions that would force change. But when I posted that on my Facebook page, and keep in mind, these are my friends who are commenting back and forth, I was pretty surprised at the number of people who were applauding that man's statement. They were saying, yes, people need to be given things to do. If they are unclear about the message, if they are unclear about the kinds of actions they should take, then they give up. They don't have time. And, that's what a lot of people have said to me over the past few weeks. I don't really understand what's going on. I've got 3 kids and a full-time job. I need to go home, make kids dinner, put them to bed, go to bed, get up in the morning, and go through the same routine all over again.
Yes.
They don't have the kind of time necessary to do as much research as maybe they would like to do. And so I thought it was an interesting point. A lot of people who were responding to the post on Facebook totally agreed with this man. And also our own mayor, Sam Adams, who we were just talking about. You mentioned that you follow his Twitter feed. He's very active on Twitter.
Yes.
He even said in his post-cleanup of the camp press conference with the police chief, he said, I believe that it is time for this movement to pivot, to shift, because he feels that people have an expiration date on their enthusiasm. He feels that while he is a supporter of many of the messages that are being put out there by the movement, that people are going to start to get tired of what they're seeing on TV, what they're hearing and reading in the newspapers, on the radio, and start to tune out. And if that momentum dies, I think people will, like you said, begin to get frustrated and just maybe stop paying attention.
Very well said. I know you're busy and you got to get back to the news desk. I won't keep you much longer. And I really appreciate the live update from Portland, Felicia. Thank you so much. Real quick, before you go, if there's any website or anything that you'd like to plug, please do so. I do definitely want to mention your Twitter, and I strongly recommend all of our listeners go follow Felicia's Twitter. It is brilliant. And because we are filter free, I can say this. Her tag is at Shit My Scanner Says, but scanner is spelled SCNR, so it's at SHITMYSCNRSAYS. Shit My Scanner Says. I love it. It's brilliant, Felicia.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun. I'm in the newsroom a lot, and I listen to about 5-6 different scanner feeds coming in all day long. And sometimes the stuff that you hear on the scanner is somewhat entertaining. It's not always the really bad stuff. Sometimes 911 operators get calls on all sorts of random things, just to kind of keep it light. And also, keep in mind, when you are following this is not exactly what's happening at any particular moment. These are bits and pieces of phrases that I hear on the scanner that I hope that people get a laugh every now and then. then. Brightens their day.
I'm always laughing. It's a very hilarious and must be followed at SHITMYSCNRSAYS. Shit, my scanner says. And again, live from Portland, Oregon, news reporter for AM 1190 KEX, Felicia Heaton. Felicia, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Filter Free Radio with Jacob Dean on Radio or Not. Live every Monday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. FilterFreeRadio.com.
Time is now. Did somebody say a revolution? Or is it all in my head? Is that what it takes to make a solution? Or did somebody say a revolution? Or is it all in my head? Is that what it takes to make a solution? Your revolution.
And welcome back to Filter Free Radio. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Jacob Dean broadcasting live here from Washington, D.C. with the whole Radio or Not, home of Nicole Sandler's primetime lineup here with us. And I wanted to play that whole interview with you because I thought Felicia was brilliant. And I got an interview with a KEX reporter. And for those of us who aren't familiar with Portland and KEX, that's a big fucking deal, as Joe Biden would say. So, and I know that there was a little bit of audio issue there, and my apologies. I'm going to put up the audio of her interview in its entirety on filterfreeradio.com. So those parts that we accidentally missed there, you'll be able to listen to the whole thing again if you'd like. Welcome back to the show, Danielle, the left neck chick, Shano, Funked in the Head, and Kenny Pick, Turn Up the Night. Also, my fantastic, super duper awesome co-host as always.
Hello.
Skeptical Scott.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, buddy. I am just, as Herman Cain would say, I got all this shit twirling around in my head, you know, and
He'll do that.
I don't know. We're having a lot of fun, though, tonight, and thank you guys again for joining us on, Occupy Thanksgiving, Occupy the Conversation. This week it is Thanksgiving week, and Danielle and Shane, you guys are going to be taking a couple nights off, which is fantastic, and I'm going to be flying back to Portland this week, so, hey, Carmen, I know you're excited, can't wait to see you, hon.
No.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna snuggle.
That's adorable.
And so we're very excited about everything. And also, as I mentioned, if you missed the big special announcement, we're working on getting Governor Buddy Roemer, former governor of Louisiana, congressman, on the show, presidential candidate. And we'll keep you up to date on that. He's going to be at Occupy DC tomorrow, if you can make it down there. That would be November 22nd for those of us listening to the podcast. I mentioned at the beginning of the show Occupy Igloos, and this is just a really short story I want to share with you. There are some activists who've been inspired by the Occupy Wall Street movement, which we've been talking about for 2 months now, in a good way, of course. And they are actually going to be following world leaders to the annual Alpine Retreat. There are a couple of left-wing groups that are planning a igloo camp outside the World Economic Forum in the Swiss ski resort of Davos, if I'm saying that correctly. And my apologies, I don't know.
Jacob doesn't ski.
Davos. Jacob doesn't do anything, obviously.
Davos?
Davos, Davos. But, and so they're actually going to go build an igloo encampment and occupy igloos outside of that forum. So good on you guys, and get out there and get active, as some people would say. Which I gotta come up with a better tagline than that.
Well, hopefully, I'm looking at Felicia Heaton's Twitter right now, and hopefully, she said a couple days ago on the scanner just now, you're checking out a kid who urinated on his house. Hopefully that guy isn't going around urinating on the igloos either.
Yeah, don't eat yellow snow.
Where the Huskies go.
Sleep in yellow snow either.
And again, let me mention, Felicia's Twitter is at shitmyscannersays. Scanner is spelled SCNR, and it's so funny. It's so brilliant. It's one of my personal favorite Twitter accounts to follow. So
I just retweeted one of hers. It says one had an eye patch and one had just one arm.
she is very funny. Besides being a brilliant reporter, she's very, very funny. And actually, I know Felicia from when Senor Tom Hartman used to broadcast out of Clear Channel in Portland. So that's how we met and know each other. And she was gracious enough to lend us 10 minutes of her time. So thank you, Felicia. Much appreciated. Ken and Shane and Scott. And not to disclude you, Danielle, but the reason that I want to ask you guys about this is I spoke with a man named James, and at Occupy DC this weekend, he told me he's 40 years old. He's a Gen Xer, and I got a little interview clip of him talking about Occupy the movement and kind of the difference in the generations. And I want to get Kenny and Shane and Scott. I want to get your take on this, and then once they say their spill, Danielle, I want your take and my take on this because I think it's important to realize that these movements are not about race. It's not about age. It's not about it's all over encompassing. And he laid this out. A brilliant man. He's very smart. And he laid this out, and I want to share this with you, and I want to get your take on this because I'm looking at this as what he said from a historic perspective, and maybe you guys can enlighten us more on this. So here is James from Occupy DC this weekend.
We were talking about the age, and I've been looking at this process since probably the late 80s. It was clear to me then that there was going to be a problem in the next 20 years. It was clear, just based on the numbers, that things were not going to work.
And Reagan put it on steroids.
Yes. One of the things that took place, we were talking about the 1960s. My generation, Generation X, did not combine with the active boomers to push against this significantly enough in the 80s and in the 90s. So it took this new generation to kind of re-energize things. So there was a critical period of time that was lost in terms of pushing back against the conservative worldview over the last 20, 25 years. And I, as a Gen Xer, I witnessed it because I was active. But most people were very passive because they felt that they could go into corporate America or whatever, and that the American dream would take care of them. So one of the reasons why this younger generation is the way that it is of course there are pressures, but when they've done studies about just overall viewpoints, this generation, the millennials, are more liberal than their boomer parents were in the 1960s.
They sort of assumed what the other generation fought for.
Yes.
Thoughts? Is he right?
Ooh. Yes, without a doubt. I think that, but it was actually orchestrated. That I think that the Gen Xers were kind of lulled into this false sense of security that this will happen to you too, with a little shiny object. Just go over here and play your video games, do whatever you're going to do. It'll all work out. You just go to college and you're going to make $1 gazillion and everything will be great.
Yeah.
And I believe they were lulled into that. You're going to be part of that 1%. And I'm sorry, go ahead again.
No, I think you're totally right, Shane, especially about the whole lulling people to sleep with the video game thing. And I can attest, I didn't have a video game system when I was a kid. I did have a computer as early as I was able to have something. I mean, I had a VIC-20. That was my first computer.
Yeah, me too.
So,
Commodore 64.
And I had games that were impossible to play, but I didn't have that instant gratification game thing going on. And, so yeah, I mean, I didn't have those diversions, and I was always, I mean, I don't know if I ever told you guys this, and I actually forgot about it until recently. I ran for town council when I was 18 in the town where I grew up.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I got about 30 votes, but, still not bad out of a population of a couple thousand. But yeah, I did that. I was active in, you guys are going to laugh about this, but I might have some prizes for you based on this. I actually helped my folks try and get Jim Traffickin elected president.
Who?
Jim Traffickin.
Beat me up, Scotty. Jim
no kidding.
Went to prison for postal fraud.
Nice.
Yeah, all kinds of crazy stuff, corruption charges and everything. But what's funny is at some point, I talked to my mom, and she has a bunch of trafficking for president buttons she's going to give me, and I'm going to award them as prizes on Turn Up the Night. So,
nice.
I want.
And
don't worry, you've got seniority. But yeah, I'll let Scott chime in there. But but again, I've been active for so long, but I do see that. I do think that kids that have grown up, with all the stuff that was kind of like elusive, maybe to me, Shane and Scott, growing up. There's this more like instant, gratification thing that has inherently, by having the internet, by having these games and having all these things that were really pricey things back in the day, I think that has inherently kind of made them more liberal. But anyway, that's just my take, but I'll let Scott pick up there.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of the example of I guess the term would be a economic bubble follower or rider. I mean, my adult life, I've basically ridden nothing but bubbles. Post-college, I went, sold telecom, after the deregulation. Then I worked in the IT industry. I took some MCSE courses and was computer savvy. And then I sold mortgages. I was a mortgage loan officer during the mortgage boom. And then even after that, I worked for a lobbying firm here in D.C. During what is still going on, which would be considered the lobby boom. I don't think many people talk about that, but there's an immense increase in the lobbying apparatus in D.C. these days, and there's a lot of employment there. So other than riding economic bubbles, I haven't really done anything career-wise, and none of that has been fulfilling for me. And quite frankly, this radio show and working in progressive media is really the only thing that gives me any kind of hope or gratification. So I really can't go back to the corporate world. It's not the least bit satisfying, no matter how much they pay me.
Yeah.
And Danielle, I want to ask you about this. And speaking from my perspective, he mentions that the younger generation is far more liberal than their predecessors. I believe that. I feel that I actually am living that. In that, you look at all the progress that the people have fought for us, and now we're just picking up the torch and continuing on with that. And how important it is, because when I go down to these movements, I am open to everyone. I want to talk to the older folks that I see down there, and the younger folks that I see down there, and I want to kind of bring it all together and get everybody. I want to trying to bring together the 99%. And your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, and I have a strange mixture of agreement with everything everybody just said. Jacob, I definitely agree with you that the younger generation is more liberal. I think we have grown up in a time where we didn't know a time that was really even that discriminatory unless you live in specific pockets of areas throughout the country. I think that we've all grown up with, that's the gay couple next door. I think we've grown up accepting the kid that was able to be gay in high school openly. And, there's definitely exceptions to that. There's definitely pockets in the country that still doesn't fly, and that's a shame. But I think we're moving towards that point. And I don't know how Portland is, but I grew up in a time where my kindergarten class represented over 15 countries. So discrimination wasn't even an object. It couldn't even reach your mind. You were too little to understand that there was anything different about anybody else. And then as far as being more liberal, I think it's also that instant news that kind of talking about. We've never had the delay in having to be interested enough to read a newspaper, having to be interested enough to sit with our parents and watch the 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 10 o'clock news. It's everywhere. It's constant. And it's been that way for as long as I can remember. So it's very educational.
I really have something to say here. Isn't every younger generation, every new generation more liberal? I think what that person was talking about activism.
Yeah.
Is that there was a generation, and I believe my generation, the X generation, that was lulled into that false sense of security. So we were not activists. I'm not saying I wasn't, but I'm saying as a whole. It's about activism versus liberalism. I think we were more liberal than the generation before, and I think the newer generation is more liberal than ours. But it was about activism and getting up and doing something, where we just kind of sat on our asses for about 10 years.
I hope that's the case. I worry very much about the younger generation. They are very swayed into crappy reality TV and internet shopping and all that. But I think it's that
they're more liberal.
Right. I think that they're more liberal. They're aware that change can occur through activism because we've seen it done in the past. We're educated about it.
And also, but also the most recent, the younger generations are having a more there's a greater negative effect upon them as they come out of college.
Oh, yeah.
Right now. So therefore,
into that.
that will strike you. If you cannot eat and have a house, you're going to be an activist.
And blame yourself.
Well, and here's something else and actually, Danielle, this is fascinating, and thanks for bringing up this topic, Jacob, because I'm starting to think of, why now the younger generation, like you and Danielle, are, and the culmination of you being more progressive now is kind of fascinating to me, because if you look, I mean, you remember, big blowback on, gay marriage, like, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, when you guys were just kids. And that has culminated to the point now where I don't know if Scott or Shane ever thought this would be an issue that actually, was on a nationwide scale, but bullying. I mean, I never, ever thought when I was in high school that, or, even, a few years into my 20s, whatever, or even up to my 30s, that bullying would actually be considered something that, was so important, that needed to be addressed on a national forum. And that is phenomenal to me. And that's a beautiful thing.
I want to, we were just, and Shane, you kind of riffed on activism, which I love. And it's a perfect segue to this last clip that I want to play of James, I played the clip, same guy who we just set this whole thing up. And I'm playing this actually for Scott, because I know this is going to, touch home for you, Scott. And James, this is the last clip. It's real short. It's 30 seconds, kind of speaking on activism and how we should become active in hijacking the political conversation next year in the next 12 months. Listen to this. It's brilliant.
The key, and I would hope to see this, is for Occupy, the 99%, to ultimately next year, an election year, hijack the conversation during the presidential election. And when I say hijack, I do not mean decide, oh, we're going to support this candidate and knock doors. I mean upset the process, so that the usual dog and pony show cannot take place with any credibility in the mind of the American public. And if that can be achieved, then we'll see quite a change in the entire political conversation next year. See what happens. All right.
That's brilliant. Thoughts?
Just like you said, brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah, I think one of the things I heard the other day, I can't remember where I heard this from, but it was sort of the argument against voting. And it was saying something to the effect of that. Just imagine if we could all organize a national strike on the day of elections, and everybody gets out in the streets, doesn't go to work, and just a general national public protest on the day of elections to really raise awareness about how insignificant and inconsequential they seem to be these days. Or at least the corruption of government and things of that nature. So,
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not saying it would work, but I'm saying it would be something to raise awareness and to at least shame, the mainstream media and the national press into
corporate media.
I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you very much, Jacob. The corporate media. I know. I catch myself on that too.
We had this conversation. Scott and I just had this conversation off the air a little bit ago about both of us keep saying mainstream media, and
it's the corporate media.
Corporate media. Messaging. Back to Danielle's
Danielle's
favorite
we need to take back
topics.
the mainstream.
Yeah.
I think we should become mainstream media. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Agreed. Yeah, brilliant point. That's Scott's bit for a promo. Write the time down.
We should become mainstream media. Thank you.
Fill that donut hole.
Fill that donut. Real quick before anybody has to go or anything. And by the way, you guys are all welcome to hang around if you can or if you'd like.
I'm having too much fun. I think I'm just going to stick around if it's all right. So.
I would.
Right.
It sounds great, bud. Join us. Occupy Thanksgiving dinner table here at Radio or Not with the entire primetime lineup. Got a couple of clips. Staying on the Occupy Wall Street message. I don't normally play clips from Fox. Dun dun dun. Where's your?
I do.
But this is a winner. This is a keeper. This is a must play. It's 30 seconds. Juan Williams gets the lockdown from Chris Wallace. Here's what I'm talking about.
The Republicans in this time of Occupy Wall Street are the protectors of the super rich. At the moment,
I'm not sure we should talk about Occupy Wall Street as a plus anymore.
Yeah, I think we should, because if you ask, because
with all the violence in the streets, you really think that most of the American people...
You are getting distracted, and you're getting distracted by simply, people who are crazy.
I think I'm in touch with what most people are thinking, which is they're getting fed up with it.
You're not.
Let's
so
stay,
not
let's
just
stay
here
with
in the United States.
let's
So
stay
let me
with
finish my point.
No, well,
so the point is
Juan, there's a limit, and we want to play fair here.
You're not playing fair, but go right ahead.
People are fucking dumb.
Damn.
Oh, that was awesome.
Did you guys have you heard that before?
No.
I haven't heard that either.
That was fantastic because actually Juan has been really ticking me off lately because he's been projecting on Herman Cain a little bit. But that was fantastic. Good for him.
Yes.
Good for you, Juan. Good for you.
Every once in a while, Juan does get it right. He's proven he's made us proud a few times.
And you did mention Herman Cain, and I do have this ready also. I got to play this. Herman Cain, David Letterman gave Herman Cain the SmackDown. Has anybody seen this?
Yeah, I saw a little.
Don't go up against Dave.
This is so funny.
You put in an economic growth plan called 999. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it means.
999. It's bold.
I know it's bold, but you don't even know what it means. I heard somebody say to you, how would so-and-so and so-and-so be handled under 999? And you said, I don't know.
Jesus.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Oh, shuck it, duck it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ripley's box just went crazy.
Oh, my God.
I can't believe he was even on David Letterman. Jeez.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're whoring it up, you can't.
Media whore.
Yeah, they'll do that.
I'm sure the ratings were great for it.
Yeah, they'll do that.
Nice. Well done. Yes, and I've got a bunch more clips. Also, we're going to get into a little bit, and also Shane and I was on, and always a pleasure to be on. I was on Shane's program on Thursday, and we were talking a little bit of we talking about a revolution, as the Tracy Chapman song goes. Crane Britton's Anatomy of a Revolution, and I want to get into that discussion a little bit. If you all are willing to dive into that,
Absolutely, revolution versus resistance.
Yeah, or also,
or both,
or just kind of, yeah, absolutely, and also
how the pattern of them work and how we're in the middle of one of them right now, I believe.
Yes,
yeah, we really are in the stages of revolution. So,
and we're going to get to Matt Taibbi's latest article, "How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love the Protests," referring to Occupy Wall Street, and I also want to play the intern Lisa, which I want to thank her. She's actually a student of UC Davis. Which has been in the news. If you've seen the pepper spray pictures, and I've got actually a whole bunch of pepper spray pictures we're going to show you, and it's actually, well, it's kind of a surprise, so I don't want to ruin that, but we'll get to that in just a little bit, so stick around, and we're also going to do chat room shout-outs here in a little bit. Yay, chat room! And love you guys. And we're going to play a clip from the intern, Lisa, who camped out at Occupy DC. And also Bill from Occupy Pensacola, Florida. Any Florida people in the house?
Just a few.
Just a few.
Hey.
We're going to get an update from Pensacola for you also. So don't go anywhere. Filter Free Radio, Jacob Dean, everybody on the Radio or Not primetime lineup. Kenny, Scott, Danielle, and Shayna will be all right back. Don't go anywhere.
Giggity, 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 goo. Stick around.
Come experience the next generation of progressive voices every weekday night on Nicole Sandler's primetime lineup at RadioOrNot.com. Liberate yourself with Filter Free Radio, hosted by Jacob Dean every Monday night.
It's just the system is broken. Bring it down. Bring it all down, right?
On Wednesdays, rediscover the progressive South on Left in Dixie with the Left Neck Chick.
Because, you know what? I think change is coming to this country. Don't you guys?
Get your progressive groove on Thursday nights with Funked in the Head, hosted by Shano.
It's not that people are asking for something that is unreasonable. It's that we're hopeful that we can have an even shot, too.
Then let it all hang out both Tuesday and Friday nights on Turn Up the Night with Kenny Pick.
You love the Constitution so much, but you hate the government, but you love the corporations. Where does that come from?
Tune in every weekday night to the primetime Radio or Not lineup at the Ustream home of Nicole Sandler, RadioOrNot.com.
In these times of nationwide job insecurity, with 5 applicants lined up for every job opening, CEOs warn workers that they had better perform or else. or else they'll be unceremoniously booted out the door. But what happens when the bosses themselves fail to perform? Well, they too are shown the door, but rather than getting a swift kick in the tush, they're being given little golden kisses to soothe the pain of their failures. Actually, the kisses are not so little. For example, when Burger King's board ousted its CEO in April for years of underperforming, his care package included a $20 million severance. That was on top of $29 million more in pension, deferred bonuses, and stock payments. Likewise, the reckless mining giant that killed 29 coal miners last year and now faces charges of deliberately disregarding safety rules, handed its chief $34 million as a fond farewell for his ugly performance when he departed in June. Then there's Hewlett-Packard, which supposedly is in the business of making computers but seems to specialize in making outlandish payments to failed CEOs. In 2007, Carly Fiorina was sent packing with a $21 million severance. Her successor got $12 million to leave last year, and his successor, Leo Apotheker, has now departed too. Apotheker's pay for failure totaled $13.2 million, including, get this, a $2.4 million bonus. Plus, HP is paying to relocate Leo to Europe and to cover the $300,000 loss he took on the sale of his house. This is Jim Hightower saying shareholders are getting miffed at seeing so much of their money going out the door in these gilded goodbyes. For more information, go to aflcio.org/corporate watch/capital.
If you like these feisty pops of populism that Hightower zings out on the airwaves, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter provides the in-depth lowdown on what the greed heads of Wall Street and the boneheads of Washington are doing to us behind the scenes. With Hightower's saucy Texas humor and truth-telling populist perspective, the lowdown literally can lift you up. And get this, you can have the lowdown delivered to your mailbox or email each month for only $15 a year. Yes, 12 issues, only $15. Check it out, hightowerlowdown.org.
This is Jackson Brown, and you're listening to The Nicole Sandler Show.
This is Melissa Etheridge, and you're listening to my friend, Nicole Sandler.
Hey, this is Rob with Matchbox 20.
Hey, this is Chris Isaac.
Hi, this is Suzanne Vega.
Hey, this is Trey Anastasio, and you're listening to
my friend Nicole Sandler.
Bare Naked Ladies, you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
What's up? This is Howie Day, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
Hey, this is Henry.
And I'm JoJo. And I'm Ringo. And we're Los Lonely Boys, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Kelly from Stereophonics, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Evan Dando of the Lemonheads, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
Hi, my name's Jonathan Brooke, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Pat Monahan from the band Train, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
This is Ziggy Marley, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
Hey, this is Pete Yorn, and you're listening to Nicole Sandler.
The lovely Nicole Sandler.
Nicole Sandler. Nicole is awesome.
The Nicole Sandler Show at radioornot.com. Music to my ears.
Ladies and gentlemen of Filter Free Radio, we are currently experiencing minor technical difficulties. Please stand by. The broadcast will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Workers Independent News. I'm Doug Cunningham.